Hello, we're stood outside Chelmsford for what's hopefully going to be the third ODI today. We have driven through rain of biblical proportions on the way here, but magically about 20 miles outside of Chelmsford it stopped and we've got clear skies. Don't know how long that will last, but there we go. Syd, you always really look forward to coming to Chelmsford, don't you? Why is that?
Yeah, Chelmsford is always a special experience, isn't it, Raf? Because there's the ground behind us, and it's next to the river. You can walk out of the ground, and there's a little gate down there. You go along the river a little bit, and then you get to Taco Bell. And being able to come to Chelmsford and visit Taco Bell is always, it's very special for me. It's a very special time.
Obviously, special ground for England as well. This is their fortress, Chelmsford. As I say, it may be that 100% winning record here is broken today, given that we don't know whether we will have play. However, England have announced a new squad for this third ODI. Catherine Brunt and Nat Siver both rested. Alex Hartley has been let go. And we've got Bryony Smith has been called up after a brilliant run of county form for Surrey. So yeah, a bit of a different potential 11 going. Well, definitely will be a different 11 taking the field today, assuming they take the field. Who do we think will play today, Syd?
Well, as we were driving here, we didn't think anyone was going to play, did we? Because the weather was looking absolutely like it wasn't going to happen. But we're here now, and it just feels like we might just do. In which case, I think that we probably will see Bryony Smith. I think that they probably wouldn't have brought her into the squad here if they weren't planning on playing her. So I think we'll almost certainly see her. I think we'd very like to see Fran Wilson as well. And do you think we might see Jenny Gunn? What do you think, Raf?
Possible. I suppose this match, Robbo will see it partly as trying to ascertain who's maybe in the best shape going into the ODIs that will make up the first bit of the Women's Ashes. But yeah, so I think you're right. I think Bryony will be in, because otherwise why call her up? And I suppose I feel happy that he's called her up, because it suggests that he is actually paying attention to what happens in the Women's County Championship. It isn't a complete kind of waste of time, because I suppose the feeling is when players like Bryony and Sophia Dunkley aren't being called up to the squad, you kind of wonder, well, is he actually paying much? Is he setting much store by county form? So I think that's positive. What about things from the West Indies perspective?
Well, they're not good, are they? We have to say. Stephanie Taylor did an interview with Cricinfo about a week and a half ago, which was published just before the first ODI. She essentially slagged off everybody in sight, said that they weren't being given the proper opportunities, and that she made it clear that she was really unhappy. And it looks like yesterday she's done it again. Oops, I did it again, because she spoke to Izzy Westbury at the Telegraph, and she repeated very much the same criticisms. They're not getting enough support from the board, and essentially, blaming the lack of support from the board and from the West Indies governments for their performances on the field. She's made it fairly clear that she thinks that that's where the responsibility lies.
Yeah, and I tend to have quite a lot of sympathy with that perspective. Obviously, we hoped that winning that World T20 in 2016 would change things, and that it would lead to increased investment in women's cricket. But according to her, and she would know, that just hasn't happened, and things haven't changed as we might have liked. So yeah, it's difficult for West Indies in terms of the Women's International Championship at the moment. They are 7th, I believe, in the points table, and they've got two of the 3 strongest teams, Australia and India, still to play. So it is very difficult, really, and the likelihood is that they now won't automatically qualify for the World Cup. And therefore they are going to be going to the qualifying tournament, and potentially a slip-up could mean that they don't end up playing in the next World Cup. What do you think, Syd?
Yeah, absolutely. That qualifying tournament is, it's not going to be easy riding. Only 3 teams will be qualifying from that tournament, which means obviously if you get to the final, then you're qualified. But that obviously also means that you'll be potentially playing a good team. You could be potentially playing India in a semi-final. that's a very losable game, and then it gives you a game that you have to survive the third and fourth place playoff. You have to win that game, or you're not going to qualify for the World Cup. I think the West Indies will be extremely relieved that the ICC are planning to increase the Women's International Championship to 10 teams from 2021. This means there isn't quite so much riding on qualifying for the World Cup, because if it had been the situation that we've got now, then they really would be in grave trouble if they neither qualified nor were able to take that forward to future edition of the Women's International Championship.
Yeah, because you end up with not really any ODI cricket on the table then going forward, and that's a very, very difficult position to be in. So I think from Stephanie Taylor's perspective, what she's trying to do is put it out there ahead of time and say, well, this is the problem, these are the issues that we're facing, and that's where at least some of the responsibility lies, because they're having to compete with teams who have got a lot more investment. So very sympathetic to that perspective. I suppose from West Indies' perspective, it might be perhaps that they'd be relieved to go ahead from today with no play having happened, and just to take the 1 point and be glad of it.
Yeah, I think if I were them, I might well think that, and then look forward to the T20 leg. And in the T20 leg, they'll be thinking that there is the opportunity to pick themselves up and do better. You'd think England are probably likely to in inverted commas, weaken themselves a little bit in the T20s. They're probably likely to put in a little bit more of an experimental team, so they'll definitely have an opportunity to be more competitive. Then they'll feel, and they'll be really looking forward to getting that T20 leg started and getting this ODI leg finished with.
Great, well, we're going to go in and let's see whether we get any play today. Fingers crossed.